right, y'all. So they're gonna be a little different, but good. So I want to speak to you about what to do when the Lord speaks, and I also want to share how I heard the audible voice of God. So the story we're going to come from is out of First Samuel chapter 3, and our focal scripture is verse 4 through 10. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do encourage you to go back, those of you who are not familiar with the story, to really read it, because that is the primary way that God speaks, and that's through his word. But the verse I want to focus on today is 9. So I'll read that one. It says, "Therefore Eli said to Samuel, go lay down, and it shall be, if he calls you, you must say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears." So Samuel went and laid down in his place. And then we know after that, the Lord called him again, and Samuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. And then the Lord began to tell him what he wanted to say, right? So when God first began to speak to Samuel, he didn't recognize the voice of God. So he thought it was Eli, which was someone familiar, someone he trusted, right? So scripture shows us that Samuel didn't yet know the voice of God. Just like the rest of us, we all have to become familiar with his voice, and we do that through his word, but he also speaks different ways. So that's what happened to me too. I remember it was one morning, I woke up, the sun was shining on my face, and I had not yet even opened my eyes. And I heard a voice so clear, so loud, that I thought the person was in the room with me. So just like Samuel, it was a familiar voice, someone I actually knew in real life. And when I opened my eyes, I looked around, there was no one there. I heard a full sentence, y'all. That stayed with me forever. I will never forget that experience, because God was speaking to me. I won't tell you what he said, but he was speaking to me a promise that he was going to fulfill. And he used that way, for one, so he didn't scare me. And for two, so I listened. And the main point I want to get at is that I didn't recognize it was God at first either, because I never heard him speak to me that way before. So that really shows us that God speaks to us in ways that we can understand. He meets us where we're at. And sometimes his voice does come through as a familiar tone, a gentle thought, or even like a quiet prompting, because he's really teaching us how to recognize him, letting us know not to box him, because he speaks in so many ways. And I'm gonna plug this real quick. I have a book coming out in May that really goes through my personal journey of how he spoke to me, how he told me to move and how I moved, and how he used not only just scripture, but things around me to show me what to do. It's amazing, y'all, but we'll talk more about that book later. But just like Samuel, learning God's voice is a process. So it takes listening, humility, and being willing to say, speak, Lord, for your servant hears.